at practice. Everybody getting into the act.
Durant fires for three.
Got it! Got it! Here's Thompson for three.
Big shot by Steph Curry.
So, Bones, you see this deal being made by the Spurs and the Raptors. From the Spurs' perspective, what are your thoughts?
I think it's a curious move. By the way, good afternoon to you guys. I'm learning a lot of new lyrics to rap songs. Thanks, bro. You know, it's 3D and I talked about this when the news of Kawhi potentially being traded and all the things that were transpiring between the organization and Kawhi's group. And 3D and I really hit on this point, Ro, and that is for the way that Coach Pop and RC have handled the organization over the course of their time there. There's been a lot said, and I was very fortunate to be part of this experience, about there's no one player that's greater than the team. What I think would have been really difficult to swallow for all the years that Pop and RC have done this is for them to have extended Kawhi Leonard to that max contract, given all the years that Tim Duncan sacrificed money, Manu Ginobili sacrificed money. All of the times we've heard Pop talk about how he's built the culture and what he believes in, to reward Kawhi Leonard in that way, given what the franchise had to deal with over the past year with the grumblings and the back and forth and not stepping up and doing your job, that would have been the curious thing. So I'm not surprised that San Antonio didn't, go all the way in. They obviously extended their hand to try to make this relationship something that they could repair. And at some point, they're going to make the decision, and 3D knows this, that their basketball team is bigger than any one of their players. And I think that that's why we got to this point where a trade was going to happen. Now, I think a lot of us are surprised that it's Toronto. We thought, Lakers, Clippers, and maybe Philly sliding in. It's a curious move. It's a bold move by Masai Ujiri to do what he's done. But the Spurs were ready to move on. And interesting the way they're going to go about their rebuild, adding another mid-range shooter to a team that, has moved off the three-point line and now has some more versatility in a stud in DeMar DeRozan.
And with that being said, Bones, how does Pop and the brass change his thinking, knowing he's upset that the Raptors said they weren't going to trade him out in Vegas, then he does get traded? How does that system change his mind and make him feel welcomed?
Well, you and I know this, 3D. Time will help that out. It's still, we're talking July. We've got a couple of months still before guys are going to get themselves to the cities where they're about to play and begin training camp. There's always a lot of hurt feelings, and as a player, you always take a trade. Your perspective on those trades become a lot different as you get older. And I know DeMar's talking a lot about loyalty and about promises. Look, we understand loyalty for a player should always be about the game. That's it. You want somebody in your corner. You want to believe in the franchise and the organization. But when it comes down to it, you've got to believe in what it is you bring to the game. And DeMar will get back to that, I think, very, very quickly. The interesting one, 3D and Ro, is Kawhi going to Toronto. This is Nick Nurse's first full-time head coaching NBA job. What is he going to do with that team that, last year pushed the envelope, tons of wins, has tons of expectations? How does Nick Nurse handle assimilating a guy like Kawhi Leonard into what they want to do systematically? That's going to be an interesting thing that their training camp, coming out of training camp, how it is that they play and the approach of Kawhi Leonard.
So you have DeMar DeRozan, who's played at an all-star level in the Eastern Conference, but in some opinions, he hasn't met expectations in the postseason. So now going to San Antonio, do you think that he can live up to those expectations? And is he the type of player that can fit in Pop's system, as he's been more looked at as an ISO player in the Eastern Conference?
Hey, Ro, if you want to play for Pop, you better fit into the system. or you're not going to play. Absolutely, DeMar can do that. Look, the guy's been on the All-Star team for the past 5 years. He's averaged over 20 points the last 5 years in the Eastern Conference. Obviously beloved since he got to Toronto back in the 2009-10 season. DeMar will figure this out, and San Antonio will find ways to use him, and they will be effective. Look, the team won 47 games last year with Kawhi just suiting up for 9 of those. You add DeMar DeRozan in his prime. You add Pirtle, a very capable big man that they think could probably do a lot of switching on the perimeter and still guard an area that has a lot of room to grow, a great prospect out of Utah. And then you have some flexibility with the draft choice. I know Masai did a great job of protecting that 2019 pick 1 through 20. And I think it turns into a couple second-rounders if that doesn't happen for San Antonio. But this team, San Antonio, will find ways to still be competitive, and they didn't want to give up on that by bringing in DeMar DeRozan at this point in his career and the security of those 3 years. Now, whether he stays there or not, I'm with Griff. Who knows? But for right now, I think it's the deal that San Antonio sort of had to make, and nobody stepped up with a better offer given their question marks about Kawhi Leonard and his health.
And with that question mark, Bones, let's say Kawhi and Masai Ujiri have the right conversation, he buys all the way in. So when you bring he and Danny Green into the situation, 2 champions, when you look at that roster, you say, wow, if all these guys buy in, this Eastern Conference could be wide open. Maybe this team could get back to the top again.
Oh, 3D. Their roster is legit. You got their best player is Kyle Lowry. I know DeMar DeRozan is the favorite in Toronto, but Kyle over the past couple seasons has been their most important and most valuable player. You're going to have Danny Green, who's played 100 playoff games, step into that role with C.J. Miles behind him. Great veterans and guys who can pull the trigger from the three-point line. Kawhi Leonard potentially starting at the 3, Serge Ibaka at the 4, Valanciunas at the 5. And then all that bench unit last year that came in and had massive impact. Fred VanVleet, OG. They're going to be at Pascal Siakam. They're going to have a very complete roster, 3D, and it's going to be exciting, again, just to see how quickly and how much Kawhi Leonard impacts what Toronto can do and be about for next season.